Hello, welcome back here in the CAYDEN'S Weather Center. Right now, we're paying attention to a little bit more of a different type of scenario here for the tropics. We've been paying attention to the tropical wave that has been continuing to move over the Caribbean here, but now we're paying attention to still that tropical wave, but also another area of interest that we've been paying attention to over here through Texas. A little bit of a low spinnature here, a low pressure system that's going to be bringing a lot of that moisture and a lot of that rainfall over here into the Gulf Coast here, bringing into Louisiana, maybe even parts of the Florida Panhandle, and reaching this whole area right here. We could be seeing some pretty devastating amounts of rainfall with some pretty heavy flooding, and we'll talk about that here in a second. The National Hurricane Center does have this marked as Invest 90L with a 10% chance here of the formation in the next 7 days. Is it most likely going to not form? Yes, most likely it will not form due to the unfavorable environment that it is in, and the more of the unfavorable environment it's just going to continue to stay in. So it doesn't have the best opportunities for it to form here in the next couple of days, so that's at least some type of good news. But regardless of the development, we're still seeing a slight moderate risk still continuing on with the heavy rainfall. Moderate risk down here in southeastern Louisiana, that does include the city of New Orleans, and then we see in slight risk here stretching from Louisiana all the way into Georgia here, that is including several states. We got Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and even Florida that are dealing with this slight risk here. So that's going to dump some pretty heavy amounts of rain. Obviously, the heaviest amounts of rain, though, will be here in the moderate area, but it's something to be paying attention to even if you live in the slight risk, because we could be seeing a lot of ponding on the roads and a lot of flash flooding. So taking a look here at the IR satellite, though, we can clearly see over the past couple of hours, we're seeing a lot of deep convection kind of blowing up here in the northern part of the Gulf with this tropical system. That spin is kind of right out here. The spin's kind of in that area, and then all that moisture obviously is pushing over here to the east due to some dry air kind of pushing it off down. This storm will have a kind of an interesting track here according to the spaghetti models, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. But if you take a look here, look at that, you kind of can see that huge big area here of dry air kind of pushing down with this storm, and that is the reason why all of this storm is really east side loaded here, and that's why majority of all that moisture is on the eastern side of the storm and not a lot of moisture is on the western side, is due to that dry air kind of building in behind this system here. But as you can clearly see, a lot of moisture is already heading into Louisiana, and then we will eventually start to see some of this head into Louisiana and definitely put a lot of rainfall there on the ground. Taking a look at the spaghetti models, though, this is something we always like to pay attention to. This is a little bit of an interesting kind of spaghetti model look. This is not going to be a fast-moving system right now. In the next day, it's going to be pushing down a little bit more off to the south here. In the next 2 days, we're seeing it possibly down here, getting ready to turn back up. So this storm, as there is a high pressure that will be building in, this will get pushed down to the south here, and then will eventually, after a couple days, get pulled back up and bring even more rain over here to the Texas coast. So Texas really is going to be having a very, very wet couple of weeks here from this tropical system. We're going to see it kind of pull back up here in the next 5 days. So, even though we've gotten all that rain right now here in these areas, well, we're already going to see it coming back here in the next couple of days. So, we're going to be paying attention to this, but definitely it's because of that high pressure system that we're paying attention to. That's kind of what's bringing the system down, and we'll be bringing it all the way back up here. So something to pay attention to over the next couple of days if you live in Texas for the rainfall. Taking a look at the Euro ensembles, there you go. There's the Euro ensembles right here for this tropical system right here, that Invest 90L. Then we see this tropical wave that heads into the Gulf of Mexico. Could be seeing a little bit of formation from that. See some models for the Euro kind of pull it back up here quicker on Tuesday, but most still bringing it down with this tropical wave still sitting down here in the southern part of the Gulf. Then we're going to constantly see a little bit of a different scenario here. Some of these models do turn around here. This is Wednesday right here, do turn around and bring it up, but majority of these models down here from this tropical wave also bring it up to the north. So a little bit to be paying attention to. We bring it up, and then the Euro ensembles, I would say, is not really saying that this storm will have the best opportunity of forming, and same thing with this storm that is getting ready to be in the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, we still have those low pressures that are pushing up here from this tropical system, but really doesn't have the best possibility of formation according to the Euro model. Taking a look at the GFS ensembles, a little bit more of a different scenario here. The GFS ensembles not having as many low pressures down here with this tropical system, but over here with the Invest 90L, we're seeing a lot more with this. And if we keep a look on this, it kind of looks like with the GFS that these storms kind of merge into each other and kind of just turns into one little storm here, and then we'll get pulled off to the north here. We kind of clearly can see, though, we do have some of that rain head into Texas and Mexico. That could be heavy amounts of rain, but there's two different scenarios we could be seeing. It all depends on how quick it gets pulled off to the north and just how fast the storm is moving. So some models still bringing it into Mexico, some bring it all the way up into Texas. This is the GFS ensembles. We're obviously going to have to keep an eye out on some of these models no matter what. So really, you know, if we go all the way out here, we can clearly see there's a lot of spaghetti here going into Mexico and Texas here. So big questions all along this whole coast. But no matter what, I would say majority of that rain will be mostly for the Texas side. So you guys could be anticipating some pretty heavy amounts of rainfall, maybe even over a foot of rain, according to some of the models. So, but now if we head into the tropical wave that is now heading into the northwestern part of the Caribbean here and is now going to be heading into the Gulf. This is over land right now, over Belize, so right now obviously does not have the best opportunity of forming at this time, but definitely does have a little bit more of that opportunity of forming once it gets down here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. 20% chance here for the next 7 days according to the National Hurricane Center, and we clearly can see over here in the satellite not looking too organized as well. This one over here looks a lot more organized, but as you can clearly see, big tropical system still continuing to sit over Belize. We're still seeing a lot of that thunderstorm activity as well over the island right there. Not the island, but Central America, and then heads into the Gulf of Mexico right here. If we take a look at here at the water vapor, a lot of that dry air still kind of off to the northeast of the storm, but really is not impacting it as much. So that's at least something new for the system, as it has been going through a lot of dry air here in the past couple of days. Obviously still does not look very organized at all, but still the dry air right now doesn't seem to be too big of a factor for this tropical system here. So that is at least some type of news that we could be seeing. Could we be seeing a possible intensification? As of right now, obviously not, due to it being on land. Taking a look at the probabilities of a tropical depression here, though, 48 to 96 hours out, we kind of can see pretty good odds of maybe tropical depression forming down here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Heading into 120 hours, 168 hours, we can clearly see big gap on where the models obviously are bringing it. We could be seeing some possible tropical development in the northern Gulf here as it heads into Texas, or maybe just even hugs the coast here. You know, kind of, it's just this big area right here that we could be seeing any possible landfall, or really, but no matter where the landfall is, we're going to be seeing a lot of that rainfall head into these places. But obviously it depends on the track of the system for who gets the most amount of rainfall, either Mexico or Texas, or it can even do Louisiana. So really there's a lot of big questions here on the table. The GFS 6Z model here, we can clearly see that we are going to be paying attention to that high pressure that does build in over here over the United States. That's going to leave a big area for this storm to push down over here to the south here, as that high pressure will be pretty strong. Then kind of gets pulled up here back into Texas according to the GFS. Maybe as a slight or as a pretty strong tropical storm, we could be seeing this, but we'll head into Texas and dump some pretty heavy amounts of rain. You clearly can see that, and dumps heavy amounts of rain, not moving too quickly, and then kind of will head on out into the northern United States. But we clearly can see it's going to get pushed down south because of that high pressure, gets pulled up to the north, hug the coast of Mexico, and then heads in to Texas, dumping some pretty heavy amounts of rain there. If we take a look here at the European model, though, kind of a little bit of the same scenario here, getting pushed obviously down to the south, but not a very well organized system as it comes back here to the north, kind of into Texas. And if you're wondering where the storm is, it would be this one right here that gets pulled in as well. But still, you can see once again that high pressure does build over the United States here, the central United States, and that is why we're expecting this storm to push down to the south. And that's kind of why really all the spaghetti models are bringing it down to the south. So taking a look at the GFS, though, for the precipitation, we're going to see it over the next couple of days. We're going to see it really heavy in Louisiana. Then as this storm starts to possibly head back up here, according to the latest GFS model, the heaviest amount of rain will head right here into Texas. And we can clearly see, you know, even actually in Louisiana, parts of Mississippi and Florida, we could be seeing maybe over a foot of rain. But really our biggest rainfall threat could be in Houston and just that coast here of Texas. That could be something to be paying attention to. Definitely, if you live in Texas, because of how flat Texas is, there could be a lot of easily flooding, but that all depends obviously on where this tropical system goes as well. Taking a look at the European precipitation, you can clearly see over the next couple of days, the European is anticipating a lot more rain here from this tropical wave, Invest 90L, the low pressure. Sitting in Louisiana is going to be anticipating a little bit more rain than what the GFS model is saying, but then we see kind of a little bit more of that heavy rainfall just staying in Louisiana and parts of the Florida Panhandle, not really impacting the Texas coast as much. So obviously it's still a big question out who's going to get majority of that rain. It all depends. Taking a look once again at that, that true color, we're going to clearly see all that moisture right there that is pushing over into Louisiana. We're going to be seeing a lot of rainfall threat, but this one I feel like is our biggest one that we want to pay attention to once the storm does get into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. The question is where does it go after that? But also this one is something to pay attention to, because even though some of the models saying that they kind of combined each other and then they get pulled off to the north, we're still seeing this one that's dumping heavy amounts of rain already still in the northern Gulf of Coast. So something to pay attention to. We got Invest 90L that we're constantly paying attention to very, very closely here. Taking a look here at the GFS ensembles, though, I want to take a look at this really quickly. We can clearly see with the GFS ensembles, obviously majority of them bringing down here to the south and then getting pulled back up here into the north. The black line is the GFS mean, so that means it's going to be most likely, this is the main model run that came out, heading into the coast of Texas here. But no matter what, this storm will most likely be heading south, and then it will be heading back up to the north. The question is how fast does this one move compared to this one, and do they impact each other? So that's some big questions that we're paying attention to very, very closely. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and for more frequent updates, make sure to follow my X page down in the description. But right now, we're going to be keeping an eye out on this. Make sure to keep an eye on the National Hurricane Center, and if you live in the northern Gulf Coast, so make sure to keep an eye on the National Weather Service for any flash flooding. Make sure not to drive through any flash floods. Turn around, don't drown. So please be staying out there safe while you're driving, during work days, during school. Please make sure you are staying safe and you guys are paying attention to the weather. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.